Today we'll be talking about B.J. Hill, the Giants' former third-round pick out of NC State. And as we know, he regressed in 2019 as compared to his rookie year in 2018, so I wanted to dive into that and wonder why it happened. So a lot of this video, there's a lot of information, so I'm going to be reading off a script, and hopefully it looks somewhat natural, but I hope you guys enjoy regardless. Let me know in the comments, do you think B.J. Hill will bounce back in 2020, or will he just continue to get worse? So I'm interested to see what you guys think as well, and let's get into it. In 2018, the Giants drafted defensive lineman B.J. Hill out of NC State. Hill was selected in the third round via the Jason Pierre-Paul trade with the Buccaneers. As a rookie, Hill started 12 games and racked up 5.5 sacks with 6 tackles for loss and 8 quarterback hits. He looked to be a third-round steal, but followed up his great rookie campaign with a disappointing 2019 season. So with that said, I wanted to look beyond the lazy sophomore slump narrative and try to figure out what exactly went wrong for B.J. Hill in 2019. The first thing that came to mind for me was playing time and opportunity, so let's investigate that first. In 2018, Hill played 642 defensive snaps, but that dropped to 487 in 2019. Nobody expected Hill to drop over 150 snaps played from year 1 to year 2, but the Giants had a talented position group at interior defensive linemen. They selected defensive lineman Dexter Lawrence in the first round of the 2019 draft and then traded for Leonard Williams prior to week 9 of the 2019 season. Before the Leonard Williams trade, B.J. Hill averaged 39.5 snaps per game from weeks 1 to 8. After Williams was acquired from the Jets, Hill played only 23.5 snaps per game. There was an obvious drop-off in snap counts from 2018 to 2019, and that got even worse after Leonard Williams was acquired. So for the first part, we can attribute some of Hill's regression to the limited amount of snaps he was getting as the season went on. It makes sense because the less snaps you have, the less chance you have of making impact on the game and improving your individual numbers. Next, we'll get into his performance. So during the middle of last season, the Giants' defensive coordinator at the time, James Bettcher, was asked about the struggles of B.J. Hill, and here was his response. I think we've seen some really good snaps, just like other guys at the position interior-wise, we saw some really good snaps. I think we have seen some snaps that he would really like himself to play better. We are all in on getting those other snaps out of his game, just like the other guys. As expected, he came to his player's defense, which is the right thing to do, but now let's look at the film and see if that actually tells the truth. Here's a play that might not go down on the stat sheet other than a quarterback hit or a pressure, but you can see B.J. Hill right here forces the right tackle inside and gets a pretty good amount of pressure on Carson Wentz on this play. Now, it is completed for about, a 10-yard completion, but B.J. Hill himself had a really good rep on this play. He probably won't be appreciated for it because this is not going to go in the stat sheet. It's not a tackle for a loss, it's not a sack, but at the same time, he made the quarterback get rid of the ball quicker than he wanted to, so right there is a good rep from B.J. Hill. Here's a play that Hill will not get any credit for in the stat sheet. He's right here against a backup right guard because Brandon Sheriff was out this game, but he does enough to basically occupy 2 offensive linemen right here to allow Deon Buchanan to be a free rusher and get to the quarterback. Now, he did make a tackle for a negative loss to Chris Thompson, it looks like, but at the same time, he will not go down in the stat sheet for this. But once again, you can see he occupies both offensive linemen and not, and maybe the right guard made a really bad play here, but B.J. Hill did enough to get in the backfield and make a tackle for a loss here. Here's a play where B.J. Hill will not get credited with the almighty sack, but he does enough to move the right guard and the center to make a tackle on Josh Allen, who basically tries to run to his left here. So obviously this won't go down as a sack because it's a design run play, but he moves 2 offensive linemen and makes a tackle for a loss on this play. Here's a play in week 3 against Tampa where B.J. Hill is basically asked to do the dirty work but does not get any credit for any stats here, but you can see he takes up the right guard and the right tackle for Marcus Golden and Alec Ogletree to get around for the sack. So B.J. Hill will not go down in the stat sheet for this play, but if you're able to contain the right guard and the right tackle on this play to allow your outside linebacker Marcus Golden to loop around and basically be a free rusher, and Alec Ogletree, who was blitzing to go around here and be a free rusher, you're doing something right if you're B.J. Hill right there. Here's another play where Hill gets a ton of pressure, but once again, he's not going to be credited with a sack on this play because his teammate R.J. McIntosh got there first. But as you can see, B.J. Hill created a bunch of pressure on this play. We'll watch it one more time. And going up against the right guard right here, and then eventually the center, does a really good job of penetrating and getting pressure on Kirk Cousins to make him backpedal this entire rep, basically, although R.J. McIntosh got the sack. As you can see, Hill made some plays that didn't necessarily show up in the stat sheet, but he made a difference nonetheless. Looking at more advanced stats, this time on the SIS Data Hub, Hill improved in certain areas like knockdown percentage and missed tackle percentage. If you're a believer in PFF, Hill actually improved his season grade from 69.1 in 2018 to 75.9 in 2019. Hill's 2019 season definitely included some unluckiness and just being ineffective at times, but the consistent playing time definitely took a hit as well. Most of us had high hopes that he'd improve from his 5.5 sack total in 2018, but maybe 2018 was more of an outlier season for Hill. As a comparison, Hill rushed the quarterback 92 less times in year 2 than he did in year 1, so it was going to be hard to one-up his rookie season based off of opportunity share alone. In 2020, I'd once again expect some inconsistent playing time unless one of Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Tomlinson, or Leonard Williams were to go down with an injury. The good news is the Giants have a really talented fourth defensive lineman, and it improves to having good depth. He could also be the fourth or fifth option depending on how the Giants use former second-round pick Austin Johnson, who they signed from the Titans, but that's a wait-and-see thing. Hill probably won't develop into a star, which we once thought, but he's a really valuable player for his defensive line, and hopefully, when this team is competitive one day, he'll be a big piece to that. As a comparison, he could be what Chris Canty was for the Giants for a 4-year stretch. He won't wow you with great numbers, but he could make 1 or 2 plays a game that could change the outcome. We have to have realistic expectations here, but also embrace the fact that the Giants have a really talented fourth defensive lineman, which is an excellent option to have. So that will do it. We just looked into B.J. Hill and why he might have struggled in year 2. I think a lot of it had to do with just being unlucky. It was possibly playing time as well. But also I have to admit there were times he was just flat out ineffective. I went back and watched all the Giants sacks from this past season, and there were plays where B.J. Hill basically was doing nothing. So I had to throw that in there as well. But for the most part, he did have plays in there that he honestly deserved to have a sack, but his teammate either beat him there or he was setting up somebody else for the sack. So just by looking at the numbers, he did have a worse year as compared to his rookie year, but if you watch every play of every game, he might not have been as bad as the numbers indicate. So with that said, I do think we'll see more of rookie B.J. Hill in the future, but is the playing time going to be there for him? Will he get the necessary amount of snaps to prove he is that guy? That's the question I have. So we'll see. Is Austin Johnson going to play over him? That's another thing we have to see. So there's a lot of competition for him at that defensive line spot. It really depends, is he on the field or not? So that'll do it for this video. Let me know in the comments once again, do you think he'll bounce back in 2020, or will he be more of just a bench player? I have to admit, he probably will be a fourth or fifth option on this team, but I do think he can make 1 or 2 plays a game, as I said, that can change the outcome, so we'll have to wait and see. But I wish B.J. Hill luck. I'm rooting for him, and hopefully he plays much better next year.